Mountain Valley News Pigskin Preview Week number 2. Sammy, 2 weeks in already, buddy.
Yeah, and already I've noticed that I know nothing about high school football.
Or actually 3 weweeks in, to be honest with you, if you want to count the first week. But, some crazy games this week. I went 4-8. 8-4. I probably should have went 4-8, but I went 8-4 from the picks. And
I didn't do much better on the picks either.
A couple of surprises in the games, but we'll talk a little bit about those as we're going. But, I tell you what, high school football is fun.
It's fun.
And, got a couple of big games coming up this week. And, region play, when it's, as Bum, I think, somebody said he put in his article, this is when it really counts, so.
Yeah, that's the way we look at it. It's time to start playing for the marbles now.
Oh, absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about last week's games. First one we're going to talk about was Fife and Geraldine. Geraldine traveled up to Fife it was actually the Mountain Valley. I think it was the Mountain Valley News game of the week. Can't remember which one we picked. I'm pretty sure it was that one. And, Fife does what they always do. They manhandled Geraldine. I think it was 41-6. But, first half of that game was actually close.
Yeah, that seems to be year in, year out. Coach Waldrop will get them fired up and get them ready to play, but when he gets in the second half, Fife just got a few more players or something. He just kind of runs out of. I don't know if they get tired or Fife just turns it on a little bit in the second half, but
sometimes
they pull away from them there in the second half. Sometimes
I think Coach Benefield just kind of dawdles around with them for the first half, and then he probably wouldn't do that, but. This Fife team, of course, Peyton Anderson had another great game for the Fife Red Devils. He is a man among boys.
He is.
Around here, actually. And so this Fife team is just rolling right along, and I don't think we expected anything different from them.
I didn't. I expected Geraldine to play hard.
Oh, yeah. And I think they
always do.
I think they did, but, there's no shame in losing to Fife. Because a lot of people has done it, and there'll be a lot more people that will do it.
There'll be a lot more to lose to them before it's
Absolutely.
over with.
But, again, I know Geraldine had a couple of kids that played well. And I have to look here because my brain has quit working. I know, again, for Fife, Anderson played well. The Rao kid played good for Geraldine. I know I heard his name a little bit. So, another great game, this week, Geraldine will be at Plainview, and Fife actually will be traveling over to Section, and those are not easy games for either team.
No, they're not. They're supposed to be some really good games, and I expect them to be. Plainview and Geraldine always play.
Oh,
there's a lot of hard hitting, and it's usually down to the wire.
Oh, absolutely.
And then Fife and Section, we discussed earlier, Section's got some size this year. They may not have as much depth as the Fife, but they may be able to play with them.
Oh yeah, I expect them to be able to hang in there for a while anyway with them. And talking about Section, they actually played New Hope last week, and got to see a little bit of that game. It was actually Section's 50-year anniversary, man, great win for them. They beat New Hope 25-12. New Hope jumped out on them actually.
Well, that surprised me. I mean, I of course, my picks. That was one of my picks last week. I picked against Section, and I knew Coach Powell would have them ready. I probably should have went with Section, evidently, but I went the other way, and Section, they played really good. They got some big old boys, and they played good against New Hope.
Oh yeah, they got quarterback, the Gray boy, Ryan Gray, I believe is his name. He was returning. They've got the Caden Hicks, who is a great athlete, and then also Tanner Baker. And speaking of Tanner Baker was the Mountain Valley News Player of the Week. He rushed for 165 yards in that game, and had a great football game. I think had 2 or 3 touchdowns in the game, and so congratulations to Tanner Baker on being the Mountain Valley News Player of the Week, and we'll actually get him a plaque over there, hopefully at the pep rally this week. So, but Section, hey, I tell you what, Coach Luke Powell, second year over there, and you can tell he's a little more comfortable now than he was last year, and he feels better, I guess, about his players. He's got most of those players were starters for him last year, and got them returning this year, and. They have to play Fife. Fife comes over to Section this week, and
well, he'll have them.
You never know.
Like you said, in his second year, he's got them believing now, so they're not going to be back down. They're not going to go in the game thinking they'll lose.
Oh, absolutely.
They'll go in thinking they'll win, just like that's all you can ask for.
Oh yeah,
a team
yeah.
to go in and play their best.
Yeah, and
take
that's
that
going to be a
win.
great game. I hope I get to go over and maybe check a little of that game out. So I'm anxious to see how section can hang with 5. The next game we'll talk about, is Collinsville and Crossville. Man, what can you say about this Collinsville team? That game was 30-something to nothing in the first quarter.
They just keep plugging along and keep. And I don't know if you noticed, but good things happen. And it may be because they're making things happen. But so far, when I've seen them playing, against Plainview and against Crossville, they make good things happen to them. If they fumble, they might recover it 10 yards downfield, get them first down. And they break a lot of tackles. You got to really be a good tackling team to tackle them. And, they just basically went up to their rival there and kind of put a whooping on them.
Oh, absolutely. Coach Ernie Willingham, he's done a great job down there. I think it's his 10th or 11th season at Collinsville. And, got a great quarterback in Caleb Jones, Caleb Jr., but, man, he is a great athlete. I mean, he can throw the ball, and he can make things happen with his feet. When he gets in trouble, man, I'll tell you what, he reminds me a lot of a Jalen Hurts or somebody that, he scrambles around. The next thing you know, he's 25 yards down the field, and you don't know what's happened to him.
How did he get down there? Yeah.
And then, they've got the Barkley kid who had a great game against Crossville, and then also Mason McKinney who can fly.
Yeah.
So, 21 starters back from last year. And I'll tell you what, this Collinsville team has got an opportunity. This is probably the best Collinsville team that's been there in 20 years, I guess. Maybe longer than that.
Yeah, it's probably been longer than that.
But, man, they've got their hands full this week.
Yeah, they do.
North Sand Mountain, they got to travel up to North Sand Mountain. North Sand Mountain had a bye week last week, so they're rested up. And I don't know if that's good or bad. What's your thoughts on having a bye week, especially second game of the year?
Right, I don't know. That's early to have that bye week.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't.
But it does, like if you're playing a Collinsville or a Fife or somebody, it does give you a extra week to prepare.
That's true.
And you can go play that jamboree or that first game, and see where you're at, and then you'll have time to prepare for the next.
Yeah.
Which for Crossville, for Collinsville, they're going to be preparing for the run.
Yeah.
And of course he can throw the ball, so you've got to be, you got to be there for that. But you've also got to stop the run.
Yeah. The thing that's impressed me with Collinsville against Plainview and then against this Crossville team, very physical, which is kind of, I guess it surprises me. I don't remember a Collinsville team ever being as physical, as big. Their offensive line is massive. Mm-hmm. And they just do a great job, and Ernie has built a great program down there, and I know everybody in Collinsville is excited about the opportunity they've got, and these next 2 weeks will tell the tale for the Collinsville Panthers.
Yeah,
they got North Sand Mountain, and then the next week Fife will travel down to Collinsville, so that's going to be an exciting couple of weeks for the Collinsville Panthers, and we'll see how that shakes out. Next we've got North Jackson. Plainview had to travel up to North Jackson, and I'll tell you what, North Jackson is the real deal.
Yeah, maybe whoever made out the schedule should have waited a couple of years, because these kids that are there now, my understanding is a lot of them has transferred in. Several of them have, and they are loaded with like Division I talent.
Absolutely. And if you want to talk about the Weatherspoon kid at running back, and he touched the ball 5 times, I think, in the offense, and went for 150, 60 yards.
Yeah.
And he actually returned a punt for a touchdown, and he had another touchdown call back. I mean, he actually scored about 5 touchdowns. But Plainview played better. And we had talked about this. I'd talked with another guy, and we were talking about Plainview and North Jackson. And what we had said was, this Plainview team could play better against North Jackson, but the score might not show it. And that's exactly I think, what happened. Jesse Davis actually had a pretty good game for Plainview. I think he rushed for about 58 yards. And so, Plainview is getting back into a classification where I feel like they can compete now.
Yeah.
So, but a tough game for them. They lose that game 48-0, and I know people in Rainsville and this area, they're not used to Plainview being 0-2, but when you lose 25, 26 seniors like we did last year, of course you got a new coaching staff coming in, running a new offense, running a different defense, and then, when you first two games are against what looks like to be probably one of the best Collinsville teams in a long time, and absolutely one of the better North Jackson teams in a long time.
Absolutely.
And, when you open up with those two in the situation that Plainview is already in, makes it tough. And, things might not be quite as bad as people are looking at them.
I don't think they're as bleak. Like you said, it's starting this week, starts the week that counts. And those two games, were really, really tough on us. I don't think we come out with a season injury to our main, running back.
Right.
But I don't think we come out with a whole lot of injuries last week.
Yeah.
So, now we can get started into the region play. And, hey, they've got it's 0-0 in the region. They've still
absolutely.
got a chance to win the region.
Absolutely.
That's what you shoot for first, is win the region.
Yeah. And, I feel like Plainview matches up well with Geraldine. Just what I've seen of Geraldine, I think it'll be a good matchup. Now, I'm not saying that Plainview wins, or I'm not saying Geraldine wins, but I think it's one of those I think this is a better matchup for Plainview and Geraldine than what they've had.
Yeah, Plainview against Geraldine will just have to tackle well.
Yeah.
Because, Geraldine does have the Hall kid and another kid that's really
absolutely
good running backs, and you'll just have to tackle well and get our offensive line going and run the ball and do possession, try to keep possession of the ball.
Yeah.
They'll have a shot.
Yeah. Hopefully this week they'll get things going.
Yeah.
Next game we'll talk about is Pisgah and Woodville. Coach Luke Pruitt gets his first victory as a head coach up at Pisgah. Put 50 points on the board, against not a bad Woodville team. Woodville's got a pretty good quarterback. Actually, I watched them in the summer doing some of the 7-on-7 camps, and he's a very talented quarterback. But this Pisgah team come out and played hard. Got a lot of the young kids that have come out that hadn't played in maybe a few years, and so look for this Pisgah team to make some noise. They got Brindley Mountain coming up this week, and that should be a win for them.
Yeah, they should. Their schedule's favorable.
It is, and looking at their schedule, they're set up that they could be going into the meat of the schedule. They could have a pretty good record going. So 4-2 or something like that.
It's very possible.
So that's going to be a good start for the Pisgah Eagles, and I know everybody up there is excited about Coach Pruitt, and not the second Coach Pruitt they've had up there, and they were excited about the first one. So I'm sure after Friday night they were excited about Luke being there.
Exactly.
Next we had Sardis traveled up to Sylvania, and to me this was probably the surprise game of the week.
It was me. If you saw the program last week, I picked Sylvania.
I did too.
Sardis was a lot bigger and a lot better than I thought they would be this year. I thought they'd lost a lot last year. But Sardis has got a pretty good team.
Oh, they do. Went up there, got to go up there and spend just a little bit of time up there on Friday night. And, the first thing, as soon as I got out of the car and walked around the corner, and I seen like 8 buses lined up that Sardis came in, I thought, ooh, this may not be good.
Yeah.
And we walk on the field, and, they had, 65, 70 players. And I'm thinking, is this really Sardis? And, and not only would they had a huge band, and they had 15 cheerleaders and all this, and I tell you what, man, they are loaded with talent. A good running back and a good quarterback, and they manhandled Sylvania. Just to be honest with you,
they've been turning the program around down there, and I don't. All those programs right there are good, so they're not taking players away from other people. Boaz is much better, and that's usually who they'd get the talent from. But they're really building the program up a little bit down there.
Yeah, they really are. And not taking anything away from Sylvania. And, of course, Sardis is a bigger school. And Sylvania gets into area play, and they have to travel down to Susan more this coming week. And, hopefully they can get things going right now. Yeah. And, of course, again, it was their first ball game other than they did have a jamboree. But, hopefully they can correct some mistakes this week and get on a winning track. So we'll see how that goes. But that game was 27-3, and, just they could not get any offense going. Shavers, to me, doesn't look comfortable yet back there. I don't know if his leg's still bothering him or if it's just, when you have a bad injury like that, sometimes you're just a little bit timid, afraid it might get hurt.
It takes you a little while to get back into it with the you have to get a few hits or maybe something where you feel more comfortable. He could still be waiting for that because I'm sure they probably hadn't hit a lot on him, during the preseason, keeping him healthy. So.
Yeah. Next, we got Holly Pond, and they traveled up to Ider and put a pretty good whipping on Ider. It's 36-13. Bright spot for Ider is Jacob Higdon, and
Exactly,
he is just he's a great athlete, and he scored their touchdowns and basically I think did a lot of what they got done that night. But this Holly Pond team actually is a better football team. They had won their jamboree game, and then they traveled up to Ider. Of course, Ider has lost 14, 15 seniors last year, so it's kind of a rebuilding for Coach Tinker. So, but they lose that game. I think it was 36-13. I believe is what it wound up being. So.
Yeah, we get into those in the smaller schools. You get into those rebuilding years. You have some really good athletes come along, and then some of the seniors, and then your next good athletes may be a couple of classes back, and they have to step up and play. And the Higdon boy is carrying them right now, I'm sure. He's a super athlete, and he is. I think he is a senior.
Yes.
And so he's carrying them right now, but that's just the way it goes when you have a lot of seniors. You have to reload. And I think they lost a lot of offensive linemen from last year, and
lost some good linemen.
Yeah.
And it doesn't get much easier this week. Got Sandrock coming to town, and as well as Sandrock is always good. They have a great program out there. I guess if and maybe I shouldn't say this, but I guess the advantage of Ider in this game is it is at Ider. Because I tell you, when you go to Sandrock, it's tough.
we always said when you step off the bus, you're down 2 touchdowns.
Oh, absolutely. In Ider's, it got a little advantage there. They are playing at home this week. And then our last game we're going to talk about was Fort Payne traveled over to Scottsboro, and this would be the other surprise game to me. I felt like Fort Payne, after the good showing against Pell City and hearing what Scottsboro had done against Sylvania, that Fort Payne probably win that game.
Yeah, I think Fort Payne had like 4 or 5 players out, and there was several defensive players out. And then during the game, they've got 3 or 4 more people out that'll be out this week.
Yeah, starting quarterback got injured, Jordan Bain, and he got hurt, midway of the second quarter, I think that was right. And, they had to put the Matthew Shaddix at quarterback, which he done a great job. He's a good athlete. But, anytime you lose your starting quarterback, that hurts.
It does. You're used to that, and you've got the rhythm going with the quarterback, and it changes all of a sudden. And one of your main athletes is having to go to the quarterback position.
Absolutely, and
so
he's played well at running back. And Donald Winchester stepped up. He carried the ball 12 times for 75 yards. Had a great game, and Fort Payne, after the quarterback went out, they threw 2 interceptions in the third quarter. And one of them actually was close to the end zone going in for a score. So, hopefully they can work out some of those things. Some of those players get back, and they can turn things around. But they've got Albertville coming to town this week, and Coach Dale Pruitt, had a big win, 33-0, and over Columbia, I believe.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't get much easier for the Fort Payne Wildcats this week.
Pretty tough.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about this week. We ain't got a whole lot of time left. But again, got Plainview will be traveling down to Geraldine this week, and boy, I tell you what, Plainview needs a win.
They do.
Something for these kids to just, if and we talk about this all the time. It's amazing what a win will do for the program or do for the players. They get a little bit of confidence built up, and when they win a game, and so. But I think Plainview has an opportunity. Quarterback situation. With Geraldine, they're a running team, and they match up a little bit better with, I think, Plainview's defense, and in Plainview's offense, I think, hopefully can generate enough running maybe.
Well, you get in there, Plainview gets in there, and they're fired up about this. It's their first region game. They've played 2 of the toughest teams in the area, and they step in there and play Geraldine, and a couple of good things happen early.
Oh yeah.
They'll build on that, and they'll.
Yeah, and one thing, and of course this is a totally different year, but over the past couple of years, I have noticed that, with a good Geraldine team, they always seem to I don't know, it's like they nearly panic when they play Plainview, and they'll make some mistakes that were not necessarily what they would normally do, and so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
But that should be a great football game, and we'll pick those here in just a minute. But next we have Albertville traveling down to Fort Payne, and like I said, Fort Payne injury bug has hit them hard.
Yeah.
And hopefully some of those kids will be back this week, but they're going to be playing a really good Albertville team. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, they had some transfers come in. Got a running back who transferred in,
right.
and I think he's a pretty good ball player. So tough task for Albertville. Fort Payne. The one thing I think, the pinholster kid for Fort Payne, and I don't remember seeing that he was hurt, but they
as
need
far as
to
I
get the
know,
ball in his hands.
he's still there, exactly. And
because he can
however
make
they
things
can
happen.
do that, yeah.
Yeah. So I think if they can get the ball in his hands and get in the open field, they've got a chance of making some noise there. Fife going over to Section. Again, Section's got some great athletes. I was very impressed. Tanner Baker again, Caden Hicks, and the quarterback Ryan Gray, all very good athletes and played well against New Hope. And Fife is Fife.
Fife is Fife. I mean, that's all you have to say. Everybody knows, the athletes they got. And then Section's just going to have to, they're playing at home. They're just going to have to play ball control and keep those athletes working and keep them healthy. Yeah. And they'll be in the game.
Oh, yeah. And, if Section on defense can stop Peyton Anderson, they got an opportunity to win in that football game, I think.
That's right.
So, but I'm not sure. I hadn't seen a whole lot of people that could stop Peyton Anderson.
I haven't
so
seen
far.
I haven't yet. That's, they've got to do that.
But that's not to say that Section won't. They got some very good
We'll just say
athletes.
if they do that, they got a chance to win.
Oh, absolutely. Next, we got Decatur Heritage Christian. They'll be traveling to Valley Head. And again, Valley Head had a great ball game this week, and they were actually the Mountain Valley News Team of the Week as they defeated the Alabama School of Deaf, and first victory for them, 26-0. I do know their starting receiver got his wrist broke, and they were putting a pin in it on Saturday. I run into Coach Vincent's mom, and she was telling me about that. So, the one thing that Valley Head can't afford is to lose players. They only had about 20. So,
That's
you start losing players like that, it's going to hurt you. But, yeah, I think Valley Head has a chance to go 2-0 this week against Decatur Heritage.
I think Decatur Heritage, I think they're 2-0. They must have played the dreaded week 0 or something.
Yeah, probably so.
And I think they're 2-0, and they're headed to Valley Head. So Valley Head, plays good at home. They got a chance to start out 2-0, and I don't know when they've done that.
Oh, I don't either.
Yeah.
And next we got Etowah. They'll be traveling up to Crossville, and man, I tell you what, for Crossville, the schedule is just brutal.
It is brutal.
It's brutal, and this Etowah team is loaded with talent.
They are one of the top teams in the state. They got some of the top linebackers, one of the top linebackers in North Alabama, easy.
And you hate that for Crossville. But that's just the way it falls, And I know they're going to work hard this week, but man, they got a tough task ahead of them this week. Sandrock traveling to Ider, and again, we talked a little bit about that already. This Sandrock team is always good, and traveling up to play Ider, who, and Coach Tinker's done a great job up there, and does a good job. They play hard-nosed football up there, and I think it's a good matchup.
I think it is too. I think Ider will, playing at home against Sandrock, they'll have a good chance.
You've got Sylvania. They'll be traveling to Susan Moore. I think Susan Moore started out 2-0, if I'm
I believe you're
correct.
right. Yeah.
And so, Sylvania again, tough loss to Sardis last week, but I think this is another good matchup this week, a good region game, and see how Sylvania stacks up in the region. Most people felt like Sylvania probably and Plainview and Geraldine would be the teams to beat, but that may not be the case.
May not. We'll
a lot
see
of people may not know about Susan Moore. So
Susan Moore, I think they ended up going to overtime last week too. So we'll see if that took anything out of them, but it's still a win.
Oh yeah. We got Collinsville at North Sand Mountain, and that's the Mountain Valley News game of the week. And I tell you what, this one is going to be as Bum would say, a slobber knocker.
That's what I was thinking when you said it.
I think this is going to be a great football game, and it could come down to the wire.
Yeah, I believe it could be, yeah.
Yeah, and then you call it, we got Pisgah traveling over to Brindley Mountain, and, most people I feel like think probably Pisgah can win this one easily. Brindley Mountain's is kind of a struggling program. Then we got Alabama State will be traveling to Auburn. We got Arkansas State at Alabama and East Tennessee State at Tennessee. And I feel like all three of those games are very winnable for Auburn, Alabama, and Tennessee.
I think you're right. I think the SEC, that's those cushion games.
Oh yeah. Well, now let's go ahead and make our picks for this week, Sammy. And the first one y'all got on is Plainview will be traveling down to Geraldine. And who you picking in this one?
Well, even though it's at Geraldine, I think that Plainview, Coach Ledbetter is going to get them going this week. I think they're going to be fired up. And like I said, a couple of good things happen. I think they win this game. I'm going to take Plainview.
Yeah. Man, I tell you what, I've struggled with this one. Plainview has not scored a touchdown.
Yeah.
Hadn't scored a point, to be honest with you. And I hate picking against Plainview, but I picked Geraldine. But I still feel like Plainview may win this football game, and I hope.
Well,
they
it's hard. It's hard to pick against Geraldine at home.
Absolutely. Next, we got Albertville traveling to Fort Payne. Who you got in this one?
Well, like I said, with all the injuries to Fort Payne, I think Albertville will beat them this week.
Yeah, I'm going with Albertville too. I feel like they'll win pretty easily on that game. Next, we got Fife at Section.
Well, I know I said Section will be playing good, but just until somebody beats Fife, it's Fife.
Yeah, I'm like you. I think this game will be closer than most people think, but I think Fife wears them down the second half. Decatur Heritage at Valley Head.
Well, I don't know much about Decatur Heritage, but I do see where they're 2-0, and they've played a couple of teams over in that area, so I'm going to give Decatur Heritage the nod there.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Valley Head in this one. Of course, I like Coach Vinson and known him a long time, and I guess it's wishful thinking. I hope he does good up there. So I'm going with Valley Head this week. We've got Etowah traveling to Crossville.
That just is what it is, Etowah.
Yeah, man, I tell you what, that's a bad draw. That's all I can say about that. I'm going with Etowah. Sandrock traveling to Otter.
I'm going to give Sandrock the edge. I think they may have a few more horses. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm going with Sandrock too. I think with the graduation of the Otter players from last year, Sandrock probably has a little edge on them there. And we got Sylvania traveling down to Susanmore.
Well, Sylvania, I picked Sylvania against Sardis last week, and they've let me down. I know they graduated a lot of players last year, so I'm going to pick Susanmore at home.
Yeah, I'm going with Susanmore just because they're 0-2, and like you said, I think Sylvania, had lost a lot of offensive linemen last year, and kind of rebuilding that line, and I'm picking Susanmore. Next, again, the Mountain Valley News game of the week is Collinsville traveling up to North Sand Mountain. Who you got?
Well, I picked Collinsville. Well, I tell you, that's going to be a really good game. Whoever comes out of this one, will be one of the top teams in the area, and that's just. I think it could go either way.
Oh yeah, last 2 years I'd either pick North Sound Mountain and I get beat, and I go against them and I get beat. Well, I'm going against them. I'm picking Collinsville. There's something about this Collinsville team I like, and I don't know what it is, and they may prove me wrong, but for some reason I feel like they may go up there and win that football game. So I'm going with Collinsville. Pisgah at Brindley Mountain.
Well, I'm going to go with Pisgah. I've seen Brindley Mountain struggling this year. Asbury won their first game ever against Brindley Mountain this year. So I'm going with Pisgah.
Yeah, I'm going with Pisgah too. I think, Coach Pruitt, and I know he didn't make his schedule, but whoever made the schedule set him up for a pretty good opportunity to get some wins. So, I feel good about this Pisgah beating Brindley Mountain. Alabama State traveling down to Auburn.
I said last week Auburn would be lucky, and they were.
Yeah.
But they won't need luck this week.
Oh, no.
It's Auburn.
Oh, absolutely. They'll win big.
Yeah.
A lot of people will play. You got Arkansas State at Alabama.
Yeah, same way. Alabama will play a lot of players. They'll win the game.
Yeah. And then I'm going with Alabama. And then our last one, we got East Tennessee State going to Tennessee.
I'm going to pick Tennessee.
Yeah.
I believe they can do
I tell you what, Coach Pruitt played a tough West Virginia team last week, and I thought they played decent in the first half. They looked like they got tired, and defensive backs are not great. And
he just got to get a little more talent.
He does, but I think talent-wise they can match up with East Tennessee. So I figure Tennessee wins that one big. So.
You're right.
Anyway, that's this week's picks, and I tell you what, it's going to be a fun week, and huge games this week, and area play. I mean, this is when it really starts counting, and we hope everybody gets out on Friday night and goes watch some high school football, because there's going to be high school football everywhere.
There's going to be some great games out there. So.
No excuses not to go. And we'll be back here next week, and we'll be talking about this week's games, and talking about next week's games. And we hope you guys will tune in and be with us. God bless each one of you. I hope y'all have a great week. We'll see you again next week.
Hello folks, this is Greg Anthony inviting you to come and visit the fastest growing dealership in North Alabama. It's called Anthony's Automotive. You'll love the way that you're treated, you'll love the selection, but most off, you're going to love the low prices and the low payment, all located in Fort Payne, Alabama. And hey, in our service department, we only employ factory certified technicians, and we service what we sell, and we inspect every vehicle 120 points prior to offering it for sale.
If it don't pass my inspection, it don't get our name on it.
And as always, I'll see you soon.
At First Southern State Bank in Rainsville, we excel within the walls of our bank and outside these walls too. We're actively working with area schools to improve classrooms and supporting area student athletes on fields and courts. We work and worship at most churches in the Rainsville community. We also work to enhance the lives of area seniors, thanking them for a lifetime of contributions. We're the bankers and corporate citizens at First Southern State Bank. True community banking.
Listen to some of Johnson's satisfied customers.
Everything exceeded our expectations. No one will ever work here other than Johnson. We give them an A+. The crew was awesome.
This is the third company that installed a unit in my house and the first that did it right.
Don't you want to know what type of person is working at your home? All of our employees must pass a background check and are subject to random drug testing. We won't send anyone to your home that we wouldn't trust in ours.
Call Johnson Heating and Cooling today, Alabama's largest and most awarded TVA dealer.
Hello folks, this is Andy White down here at Bobby Ledbetter's Twin City in Fort Payne, Alabama. I want to invite everybody to come out to our new location. We're at 1411 Glen Boulevard, right where you turn to go on Airport Road. We've got plenty of inventory for you to choose from. I got cars, trucks, vans, sport utility vehicles of any make and model. Come down here and visit us. Let us see what we can do for you. If you got some slow credit, I've got some banks that'll take care of that. We've got great financing, got a great selection of cars. Y'all come down here and see us.
Don't take the first deal that comes along when you can do better at BobbyLedbetter.com and Twin City Used Car Sales, located at 1411 Glen Boulevard in South Fort Payne.
How do you show love? With the big things? The little things? The tough things? Your everything. Show them you care. Alpha Insurance.